And hey, it's not broken. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another exciting episode of the Crystal Crusaders side stories. Joining me today again this week, we have Thor once more here for the second part of the Alquill side story during the,
Yes.
the downtime here. Um, and we are going to get right into things here. Um, but first,
Word zero
uh,
eight.
Mr. Alco Red Moon Thor,
Yes.
you don't have inspiration right now, and you know what that means.
Haha. So I was wondering that, like, I've been sitting here this entire week being like, do I need to recap things? Is he gonna make me do a recap? Is
it
yeah,
is
okay.
it is tradition after all.
Yes, it is a tradition. Shit, I spilled a small amount of Pepsi, like a drop of Pepsi on my keyboard. I'm trying to just like
Sacrilege.
wipe it. Sacrilege. Yes, I know.
This
Um,
cannot be forgiven.
um, so just I, I but yes, last time on the Adventures of Alquill, apparently things here just ruining everything right now. Last time of the Adventures on Alquill, he had first of all made it back home to Icewind Dale off screen. He had traveled from Waterdeep back to the Icewind Dale to Ten Towns. Um, the had taken about a month or so. And had just been arrived in Bryn Shander basically for a couple of days, I believe he said. Hadn't really had time to meet anyone yet, so he had sought out Sheriff Markham, formerly Sheriff Markham, currently Speaker Markham, after the unfortunate demise of the Vessel Shane. He had found Sheriff Markham outside the city of Bryn Shander, standing there some gravestones, a specific one belonging to the former speaker, Devesa Shane. Markham was surprised to see Elquill having that he had returned, and the two reminisced a little bit and shared stories about what's been going on, what's happening. Um, Ever so slightly what they could talk about in the time before Markham would have to leave to go back to the Ten Towns. Um, Alquill basically recapping a little bit of what he'd been up to since leaving Icewind Dales, how the whole business with Waterdeep turned out, and the dangers that the world faced from the onslaught of giants. Markham telling Alquill about how the Ten Towns have been doing good. They've started like making with the recent giant attack, they've sort of like made a better, tighter community with the Ragged Barbarians, from my understanding, which is good. You know, peace in our time, at least between humanoids. uh, and Yeah, they haven't been attacked by any more frost giants so far, at least, which is good. So they hopefully leaving Bryn Chandra alone now that the guy who had this blood of Artisimber, Sirac was no longer here. Um, then, as Alquill and Markham was sort of like wrapping up and was ready to start heading back, or we're going to head back. One of Alquill's old acquaintances, whose name I remembered perfectly last session, but I remember it's Linda, it's something. Um, and fuck, I'm just gonna have
The
to check on my
character
notes.
from your backstory, man.
I know it's a
You made
character
the
from my
character
back.
up and you can't even remember the name.
Lindarin Swiftbow. I knew it was Swiftbow, it was the surname, but I didn't remember the full first name of Lynn. Lindarin Swiftbow, a ranger and follower of Gwaron Windstrom and member of the Emerald Enclave, who had once upon a time taught Alquill about the wonders of nature and of Gwaron Windstrom's how to respect nature and such, and which basically inspired Alquil into himself dedicating himself to becoming well, for him it became paladin out of paladin in the service of Garand Windstrom. Um, and yeah, the two were catching up. Apparently, Lindarin was there because she was scouting for the Emerald Enclave, keeping an eye on the giant activity up in the north. And she'd heard about some giant activity happening in a town far, far, far to the east.
Yeah, this map is shifted, so it's like that way.
Oh, it's that way.
Yeah,
Sorry, that way.
but it's like way far that way.
Yeah, way far that way, which is a town. Heart. There was something Hartwell. Hartwell.
It's Heartvale, yes.
Yes, Hartwell. Town of Hartwell, which is apparently inhabited by people with giant bloods, supposedly, who might have had some troubles with the giants. And she was going to be heading out there soonish. Alquil was going to consider whether to join her or not, but he wasn't really sure what he's supposed to do now while waiting for Harshnag the Grim to return with his tidings, with his findings that he was so anxious to figure out. So Lindarin did give Alquil a tip about if you were ever lost, you can always turn to Guaron's teachings. And so Alquil, taking up on that, went out of the city of Bryn Shander and had gone out to like a little bit of the forest outside and prayed to Guaron for a sign of what he should do. At which point he had experienced a vision, which was of some guy chopping like large trees that was dragging behind him, and also fighting giants. And then he like came out of this trance, and a voice spoke up behind him. And yeah, that is where we were at. Sorry for a long recap.
Yes, indeed. Picking up, we see we are sort of in this sort of thicket of trees outside of Bryn Shander, sort of to the east of Bryn Shander. And we see now there's sort of like a little kind of like clearing almost. And Alquil is there in the center, kind of like kneeling in the muddy snow. This kind of like white furred stag leaping off into the tree line as this the crunching of boots is heard from behind him, and this familiar voice rings out, saying something to the likes of, "Alquil, is that you? You old dog, what are you doing here?" And as you get up and turn around, you see standing behind you a figure which you do in fact recognize from your journeys in Icewind Dale prior. His sort of like long, flowing blonde hair, like bright blue eyes, very sort of kind of like stern facial features, although they seemed a bit more like sunken and worn. It seems as though he's seen a lot of stress or something in the last few years. But you recognize he has this sort of like big kind of like elkin like cloak on with this like antler, basically like the elk's head kind of like resting on one shoulder, and you can see he's got like he's got like a battle axe at his side, and then his cloak is sort of pulled over, like covering the other arm, which he had lost in battle 9 years ago.
Yes,
and you recognize Hengar, yes.
Yes. So when I like when he speaks and I turn around and I see who this is, I'll don't speak regular. I was just double checking that. I says like Hengar. I says like, it's good to see you. I says it's been quite some time. I says, and looking it over and seeing he's like a bit more ragged than perhaps I remember him. I says, you've been keeping well, I hope.
Um, yeah, he just sort of like walks over, so he's like next to you, kind of like looking you like eye to eye, and you can see like there's still kind of this like there's like this fire in his eyes, but it almost you see like the dimness of like somebody who's been like putting up with a lot, and it's like wearing down on him. And he says, as well as one can be when forced into a position such as this. He says, it was never really my intent or destiny to take over leadership as I have, but I have done the best that I can in these hard times that we have fallen upon. He says, it has not been an easy task. Have you heard the news?
Just, what news specifically? I say.
And he says, news of the end of this endless war that has been fought in these dales for centuries between my people and yours.
I says, yes. I nod. I says like the Speaker Markham did mention something of the like. He says that there was says that there was a arrangement was being made to make peace between our peoples. But I'm not sure. I'm afraid I'm not privy to any of the details yet, as of yet.
And he sort of nods and says, well, as you know, we of the Elk clan have always been open to outsiders. It is my fellows in the other clans that have been hesitant to get along with the people of the Dale. They view them as thieves who have come and stolen our land, our food and resources. He says, but we of the Elk always saw them as allies against the dangers that dwell in this place. Dragons and giants and worse. He says, with the recent upheaval and the disappearance of the Bear Clan, things have been in disarray, to say the least. So we came up with an idea to reach out to the others, to put an end to all this struggling and violence, and, well, it has been a long and hard road, and it's seen many a sleepless night, but I think finally we are making the right steps forward.
It's good to hear. Says, though I do have says I have some tidings when it comes to the Bear Clan. Says, it's not been too long ago since I ran into Rengar. Rengar Bearheart. Says,
Yeah.
down south.
So the man is still alive then, huh? It does not surprise me. He was a warrior with the strength of dozens, if not hundreds of men.
Yes, says he says he's not gotten any weaker. I can say that for certain. He appears to have even picked up some new tricks. Says when I encountered him, he transformed into a bear man. Says.
Yeah, and at this, Hangar's eyes kind of go wide, and he says, I have heard tales of such a thing, but never from the Ragged Men. He says, the, the, the clans of Goliaths in the mountains have legends such as that, but not amongst our people.
Nod. Says, well, it is what occurred. I'm not sure how. Says I'm not entirely certain about the mechanics of his transformation. And says like it's he just when he went into battle grew fur and his face transformed into that of a bear. Still stood on two legs though, still able to wield his axe. Says, but also looked a lot more stronger than he had been in our previous encounters. But he and the Bear Clan, we met them very far down south, not far out from a city known as Waterdeep, which is at least a month's travel away from here, he says. And from what little we spoke before battle ensued, I could it seems that he and his clan has joined up with the giants, stone giants, at the very least, and and he spoke about serving some greater master who I presume might be Akar Kessel, but I can't say for certain.
Yeah, so his brow sort of like furrows, and he sort of says, "Grim tidings, then." He says, "I do not know much about these troubles that you have faced, but..." And he kind of like pats you on the shoulder. "I can tell just by looking at you that you have been through a lot. I guess we are alike in that regard, although I suspect that your journeys proved significantly more difficult than mine. I can see it in your eyes."
Says, well, in terms of pure might, certainly, but I can't imagine it's an easy task to try and rally together the Reged for a joint peace with the 10 towns. Even the 10 towns have just the cooperation between the 10 towns is also a very loose coalition, more out of necessity than an actual, well, community.
And he just sort of like nods and says, "I tenuous at the best. I have seen the way that they look at me when I am in the meetings. Says, there are some among them that wish to keep to their own, and do not wish to trust outsiders as they see us. Says, luckily, there are men like Markham that know a bit better than that."
Yes, we are. We are fortunate to have people, men and women as like Speaker Markham and the former Speaker Duessa Shane, be amongst the leaders of the 10 towns. And we are fortunate to have men like you amongst the leaders of the Regeds. As long as we have such capable folks, I'm sure peace can be obtained.
He sort of nods and he says, "Aye, but it is a long and arduous road, and we have yet to walk much of it. There is still much that can go wrong, but I am confident, at least in the future, especially given the recent threats that have come to help us on our way. To really drive home the fact that Icewind Dale will stand together or fall divided."
You speak of the giants, I presume.
And he sort of nods. He says, "My fellow clansmen have seen them rampaging across the Dale. He says, searching for something. He says, many of them headed east."
East. Was that long ago?
And he says, "No, the first ones we saw maybe a week or two ago. They have been moving in greater numbers than usual, however." He says, "Search parties, perhaps. 2 or 3 at a time, setting out across the glacier."
I see. Says, that is not good tidings. Says, I had heard that there's a town, Hartwale, out in the east of the Icewind Dales. Says that blood of its people perhaps share ancestry with the giants, but that they have not been they haven't joined forces with the giants as of yet. Says that might be perhaps the goal of the giants, to bring this town or its people in under their banner, convince them or coerce them.
Yeah, he
Yes.
just sort of shrugs and he says, if such a town does exist, it must lie far beyond the glacier and the ice spires, for I have never heard of it.
Yes, I'm not entirely certain how far it was.
Uh-oh. Lag. Lag. Ooh.
But things of the giants. I believe heading east might be a good idea after all.
Alright. Uh, so I lagged and missed, like, most of that. It all came in at once.
All right. Basically, basically just said that I said that Lindar and Swiftbow had spoken about this town and like the giant sightings there, and that she was planning to head there, and that I was thinking of joining her. I hadn't been like entirely certain, but now that hearing that the giants have been sighted going eastwards, I think that it's definitely. It's just like I definitely think it's should be worth further investigation.
Um, yeah, so he nods and says, certainly, but you are but one man now, Quill, and there are quite a large glaciers between here and wherever they're going, so I hope you do not mean to set out on your own.
I shake my head. No, I says. If Lindara knows her way around the wilderness well, as do I. Say, I'm certain between us we can prepare. We should be able to prepare well for the journey ahead.
And sort of like nods, and you can see he's kind of like looking around, and now you can see like he sort of been holding this like javelin in his hand. You see he's got like a few kind of like in a like holster on his back. He's been holding this javelin. He's like looking around and he says, "It has been good talking with you, but you did not see a white-furred elk come through these parts. I saw it on my way here, and I thought to hunt it down when I discovered you."
Says, ah, I say, I did see the deer. I say, though I believe it might have been a messenger from Varund Windstrom, as when I saw it, I was overcome with a vision of a faraway place. It says, right before you arrived, it ran off,
Hmm.
jumping into the forest, as it were.
Yeah, so he says, I see. In that case, it is probably best that it runs free, and he kind of like puts the javelin back into its like quiver, essentially. And he says, well, it is good speaking to you again, but perhaps we should find more suitable accommodations than standing out here in the middle of the cold. Night is going to fall soon."
Indeed, I would rather not be out in the outside of the out in the dark and cold when the night hits. It says, was just out here to pray a little bit, then head back into the town. Are you staying in the town, or do you have other accommodations?
Um, he sort of like nods and says, though the conditions of the town displease one such as myself, more used to the open skies and plains as it were. And he says, it is of course a necessary evil. I have come here to meet with the speaker and uh, formalize things a bit more, so indeed I am staying in the town for the time being."
Very well, then let's let us head back. Says before the gates shut for the evening.
And he sort of nods, and yeah, begins kind of like walking off, and like the two of you kind of like walk together, like catching up,
Yeah.
telling him stories about like what you've been through, and he's like telling you stories about like what he's been through, as you make your way back to the gates, basically just before like sundown, and they're like about to close, and you kind of like hear a shout from like the guards, like last call, everybody inside the gates, or you'll be shut out for the night.
Yeah.
And yeah, as you reach up to the gates, you can see the guards kind of like usher you inside, and then slam and like bar the heavy doors as you enter inside. And Hangar just sort of looks around, and he says, "I believe that I have a reservation at the North Look." And he says, "I will make my way there." And he says, "You are of course welcome to join me if you wish, but I'm sure you have a place of your own or something of the likes."
Yes, I am staying at the um Kelvin's Rest. That was it. Kelvin's Comfort. Like that. So I'm staying at Kelvin's Comfort. Say. Though I wouldn't be just I wouldn't be against the idea of perhaps having a drink with you before heading back to my own accommodations.
And he sort of like laughs like heartily, and he says, "Of course, but just one drink will not be enough, considering how watered down the stuff that these people drink is." And he says, "It'll take a great many to sate my thirst."
Says, good, good. Sounds like it will be quite fun then. I'll join him to go to the North Look.
All right. Yeah. So you and him head to the North Look, this sort of like tavern slash inn, and
Yeah.
basically, yeah, the drinks are had. I don't know how much you drink. He does like drink like quite a bit, and doesn't seem to be like too put back by it. Um, uh, but yeah, you kind of like
Well, I mean, I'll try and keep pace.
mm-hmm.
Uh, I don't know how well that will go, but
Well, let's make a Constitution check.
yeah, just a straight up check. Yep.
Yeah, so you immediately basically just like recognize like there's like no way you're going to be like keeping up with him and his obvious like thirst. So you basically very quickly kind of like peel back and like control yourself so you don't just like end up just
Yeah.
completely shit faced or whatever. But you just sort of
Yes.
you sort of take a drink like every so often, not worried about like keeping pace with him because obviously you can't.
Yeah.
And
I was yeah, I was just
yes.
gonna have to do the attempt. That's all.
Mm-hmm. Obviously, clearly your stays in places further south, all their watered down ales, you've sort of gotten used to the lackluster alcohol content, and so it's difficult
To
to
adjust
drink
to
as
this.
much. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, indeed, of course,
um.
clearly.
Anyways, so yeah, you guys like spend like the early part of the night before eventually like he has to pack in for the
Yeah,
night, and you kind of go your separate ways and um, return to your own room that you sort of have
yeah,
at Kelvin's Comfort. And yeah, so you rest for the night, and then the following morning, you awake and you could see out the window, sort of like heavy snow, sort of like falling. Obviously, some sort of like storm has blown in overnight, and there's like it's pretty like windy, like heavy snow, kind of like falling. First thing in the morning, as you wake up, you're putting all your stuff on, getting your gear ready and whatnot.
yeah.
Um, so at this point, what do you do?
Well, since I have since I figure I'm gonna go with Linda, and I should seek her out, and um, she said she will stay. Was she staying at Kelvin's Comfort, or was she staying at somewhere else? What did she say?
I believe she was staying at the. Um, at the
Hunter Place.
third, yeah, the third inn in town, the one
Yeah.
closer to the eastern gate. I forget what it's called exactly. Um,
Yeah, I just remember. I remember we were there once. It's like it's a place for hunter
yeah,
gatherers
it's kind of
usually.
like a hunter hotspot.
Yeah. So yeah, after getting myself breakfast, I would head over there. Um, though before that, I just kind of thought of something. Um, though it has been 9 years, I did once barter away my harp of illusions to Ogden Flamebeard, and I promised him that like if I would come back and buy it at some point.
That's true.
I'm not sure if he's still he still has it, but if he does, I do have money now. I just had a look at my coinage and realized I have a lot of platinum.
um,
So
yeah, so like if you head up to the bar and begin like asking him
yes,
about it, he's kind of like stroking his beard, and he's like, oh yeah, that old thing. I think I still got it in the back somewhere.
it says, well, it says, I don't remember exactly the amount that was agreed upon, but I'm certain I could cover the cost of buying back the harp now.
And he just sort of like nods, trying to like remember, and he's like, if I recall, you bartered it in exchange for a bottle of my finest brandy. And he says, well,
Yes.
things have been a bit hectic lately, so the price has gone up, but considering the deal that was made back then, what the hell did I even charge? Oh, God. And he says, right, I think it was 500 gold for a whole barrel of the stuff back then. And he says,
That does ring a bell. 500 gold, I
and
say.
he says, if you're good for it, you can have that thing back. I tried to pluck at the cords a few times, but I guess that sort of thing's just not in my blood.
Yes. Yeah, I can. It's well, it's not for everyone, but yes, I'll get out my pouch and it's like I'll start counting out platinum coins, uh, and 50 of them. Then I'll slide them over to the counter over to him.
He just sort of like eyes wide, like looking, like picks one up, like looks at it like closely, kind of like squinting with one eye, and he says, "The nine hells, lad. Where'd you find coin like this, and so much of it?
It's just,
You've been up to
uh,
quite a
vo-
bit,
uh,
haven't you?"
it's just, we're down. We traveled as far south down as Waterdeep, but this came from a giant hall. It says belonging to a tribe of hill giants run by a chief Gur. It says they had dammed up the river leading up to that ran down to Golden Fields. It says we, with the help of my companions, we were able to clear away the giants and pick up the gold that they had hoarded from well their attacks on nearby cities and towns.
And he just sort of nods and says, "By Moradin's beard, it sounds like I got into the wrong business." And he says, "Well, it's good that it's been working out well for you. Let me go in the back, and I'll drag it out here for you."
Thanks, I says. While we're also talking, how much would it be for another bottle of fire brandy?
And he says, "Well, times are tough." And he says, "The roads have been more perilous than usual to traverse." He says, "Prices have gone up. If you want a whole barrel of the stuff, probably be 750 gold now." And he says, "But one bottle, 75."
How much would a barrel weigh? Like filled barrel?
It'd be like pretty heavy.
Yeah, that's like what I'm thinking. It's like so 75 for 15 flat pieces. Yeah, I'll take 2 bottles, I say, and I'll get like 15 platinum pieces out.
Yeah, so he sort of like nods, and he says, "I'll fetch him from the back for you." And yeah, he kind of like heads to the back, and eventually you kind of like hear this like and like the sound of like something like being dragged along the ground as he like pulls this harp out.
Yeah.
It's like a full sized harp, so it's like pretty big. Um,
Oh yeah, was it the fools? Yeah.
yeah, I mean it's carryable, but it's
Yeah.
pretty big, and he's like a dwarf, right? So he's
Yes.
kind of like
Yes.
it's like as big as he is, so he's like pulling it along, and you see he's got these like two bottles in his hand, and he sort of and like pops them up on the counter for you, and he says, "Oh, I'll be glad to be rid of that thing."
All right. So I have my harp of illusions back. It weighs how much does a harp of illusion? How much does a harp weigh?
I have no idea.
It didn't say in the SRD. And then
No.
2 bottles of fire brandy.
We'll just say like the harp. It's not like made of a super heavy metal or anything like that. Um,
Yeah.
so we'll say it weighs like I don't know, like 30 pounds. Because it is like a full. It's not like a little like mini, like a lyre or whatever. It's like a full harp.
Yes. Let me input. There. So what is it? 30.
Yes.
30. All right. I am over carrying capacity. Nice. Bottles. Fire brandy.
No, you're actually over your maximum.
According to the sheet.
What the hell are you carrying that's so heavy?
That's what I'm wondering. Like, cause I'm
Oh, it's because you're
240s.
carrying around the extra suit of armor and stuff, probably.
Yes. Oh, I need to plug in the charger for my headset. Just hang on a moment.
And all the random weapons.
And all the random weapons. Um, what is it that I'm carrying? That's so. Well, brooch, cloak.
The box of vampire hunter stuff. Pretty heavy.
Oh yeah, I have the vampire hunt. I mean, you never know when it's gonna come with that.
I mean, most of it is the plate mail armor. It's like 70 pounds, and then like all your weapons
Six.
and stuff. So
The silver longs. Oh yeah, silver longsword shield. Tent. I have a tent. Yep. I should probably get like a cart or something.
or something. Yeah.
Something. Yeah. A sledge. I'm in the Icewind Dales.
Yeah, probably would be your best bet.
Yeah. How much does a sledge cost? I'll find out.
I don't even know if that's it's in the but it's probably like similarly priced to like a cart.
Yeah.
Maybe a little cheaper because it doesn't have like the wheels and stuff like that.
Oh yeah, and the breastplate isn't it? Oh, my hidey armor. My sneaky armor.
Your sneaky armor.
Yeah, for when I want to be
For when
sneaky.
you want to be sneaky. For when you want to not suck at sneaking
Yeah.
and just be okay at it.
Yep. Gavel of Venru. That one was also just 10. Yeah, because it's a giant fucking gavel. That's why.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, I have Boots of the Winterlands.
Big hammer. You do, yes. Sort of those like big, sort of like furry snowshoe-esque boots.
Yes, which means that I have resistance to cold damage. And I ignore difficult terrain by
That's
snow.
so weird. There,
What?
there, there are sleds, and they cost more than a cart,
Oh really?
but they can carry more, I guess. They're 20 gold for a sled.
20 golds, that's 2 platinum.
Um,
I'm gonna have to buy that.
and of course, you'll
I'm
either
just
need
like,
something to pull it, or you'll just pull it yourself, I guess.
yeah, I mean, I can always, one of these days just prepare, and I probably already did, now that I think about it, because like I probably wouldn't have traveled all the way north without summoning Windstrider.
Mm-hmm.
So I have Windstrider pull the cart or sledge.
Perfect.
So yeah, I guess I'll have to do some inventory management at some point. I guess for now I can like just leave some things here at the tavern in my room or whatever until I've spoken to Lindarin.
Yeah, so as you're kind of still, obviously, you'll go out and purchase a sled or whatever, but as you're like still
Mm.
in the tavern, Ogden sort of like handing over the bottles of brandy. He just sort of says, "So you're in the business of hunting giants now, then?" And he says, "Must be quite the interesting life."
And it's just like, uh, I suppose I am. It says it's not the um, it's not the safest life decision I've made, but I want to do my part in making sure that the Dales remain safe from any further giant incursions, and figure out how to make things go back to how they were. It says, but yes, I suppose I am now in business of hunting giants.
He sort of nods and he says, You know, an ancestor of mine was once claimed to be a renowned giant slayer." And he says, "I can't play the harp for shit, but maybe giant slaying's in my blood." What am I joking about?
It's just like alcohol with like chuckle. It's just like so an ancestor of yours was a giant slayer, you say?
He says, "Or so the stories claim." And he says, "It's been a few hundred years since anybody's seen him." He says, "Heaven knows what the old bastard's up to now. Say one day he went up the slopes of Calvin's Cairn and was never seen from again."
It says if was this ancestor of yours? Have you ever met him? Or
And he just sort of says, uh, "No, I wasn't, even my father was just a wee babe by the time that he had left." And he says, "It's been, well, I've been around for a while, but he was gone long before I came into being. But I've heard the
yeah,
stories my father told me."
says I see. That's um in my vision spread, I didn't. Did I see what kind of like race or like ancestry?
Um,
Just like
so you didn't like get a good look at them, but you could tell just by like the proportions, like when they were like dragging that tree and whatnot, and when they were fighting the giant, that they were like shorter in stature than a human. So they must have been like one of the shorter races, like a dwarf or a halfling or something of the
yeah.
likes.
Hmm.
Not many like halflings and gnomes around these parts though. So
It's just like I see. It says, and he went up to the Kelvin's cairn. It says,
and he says,
uh,
"I said he was looking for something at the peak, I think. At least so they claimed." He says, "Like I said, ain't nobody seen him since then, and well, he'd have to be a damn fool to go hiking up that mountain looking for a lone dwarf. Place is
hmm.
huge. It could take you decades and you'll find nothing."
It says, this ancestor of yours. Do you have the name of this man?
And just sort of says, "Aye, Bilrug Framebeard."
Bilrug Flamebeard. Play. Crap. I thought I knew what I was doing, but now I'm
Mm-hmm.
presented with more options there. This is Bilrug Flamebeard, Giant Slayer.
He sort of nods and says, "I heard a lot of stories when I was a boy about him. I think it was my father trying to motivate me to become something greater, but I didn't really have much of a knack for axe play, as it were. And he says, but I heard the stories of how he could cleave a giant's leg clean off in a single swing. He says, could cut through frozen trees as if a hot knife through butter. He says, he says, I think he had some sort of fancy tool to help him along the way, perhaps, but maybe there's some truth to the legends. Can't
Hmm.
say.
This is interesting. This is perhaps that is where I should go. Should go. I say. You might not believe me, Ogden, but yesterday I went out to the woods to pray to Gwaron Windstrom. This is try and figure out what my next step on my journey should be. I prayed for any sort of guidance, or omen, or anything. And while I was praying, this white elk came out from the woods. And when I looked upon it, my head was filled with a vision. I saw this man, I think at least it was a man, but there's a humanoid figure. It says one of the stouter folks, dwarf or halfling or something of the like. It was difficult to tell. Was hiking up some mountain. He says, dragging behind him this large tree, the entire log, dragging with a piece of rope. I saw him in the woods, cutting down the trees as the trees were being felled. A giant walked out of the woods and, letting out a battle cry, he grabbed his axe and went to attack the giant. That is where my vision ended. So I believe Gwaron was telling me to seek out this man, whoever he might be.
And Ogden sort of chuckles and says, I believe you perhaps had a little bit too much to drink and stumbled into the forest.
I will laugh at that. It's like, perhaps that might be the case. But I believe Goran Windstrom is trying to tell me something. I thought perhaps that I would have to go to go east to Heartwale, but perhaps I should take a trip up Kelvin's Cairn. For nothing else, it would be an interesting hike.
And he just sort of like laughs and he says, you treat it like some sort of vacation getaway. And he says, you know how dangerous and, quite frankly, perilous it is to climb up those sheer cliffs and the mountainside. As many a brave man has lost their lives buried under layers of snow in an avalanche, or slain by the fearsome yetis that dwell on those peaks. He says, of course, I've no
Indeed.
doubt that you can take care of yourself after all that you've done here and elsewhere, but just try not to be too overconfident.
You're right, Ogden. Yes, of course you're right. Shouldn't make light of it. Be disrespectful to those who have perished making the climb. Yes. At any rate, thanks for the brandy. Thank you for the harp. Yes. I shall be dragging this up to my room, and then I shall be off for the day.
And he sort of nods and says, well, if you decide to go hiking up a mountain for fun and entertainment, at least make sure you bring somebody to watch your back. Wouldn't want you to get all lost out there alone.
Of course, Ogden. I say. And yeah, I will take my harp and bring it up to my room, and then I will head out to go and meet with Linda and perhaps get her advice on the whole vision that I had.
Sure thing. Yeah, so you drag the harp up the up the stairs. It's a
Yeah.
process. You're pretty strong, so it's not a huge issue for you, but it's still sort of like kind of like a little bit like unwieldy to just kind of like carry around. More suited to just
Yeah.
being like put in a room, right, for to sit down and play. Um, but yeah, so you put it in your room, kind of squaring away some of your things, and then head out into the bustling streets of this like small city, making your way to the eastern part of town, and to the inn where you would know that Lindarin is sort of staying. Yeah, you make your way inside, and you see the attendant there. I believe she's a sort of like an older woman, kind of like sees you, um, sort of like
Yeah.
waves and says, "And what might your business be here, young man?"
The it says like I am looking for one of the tenants who are staying here. Lindarin Swiftbow. Yes. Is she still here, or has she gone out for the day?
And she sort of says, "I believe that she left early this morning. Didn't return the key though, so I assume that she'll be coming back later and staying the night again. Can't rightly say where she's run off to."
I see. Well, if she returns, you can tell her that Alquil Redmond was looking for her. Yes, I'll probably be back later.
Sort of nods and says, "Will do, sweetie."
Right. I guess I'll head out into the town, and well, at this point, that probably will be when I buy the sledge. Um, Probably gonna have to do some more equipment. I see that I'm low on rations and stuff. Um, so yeah, I guess I'm just kind of wandering a little bit in the town. I don't know. I don't know where Lindarin would be off to yet. So Markham is probably busy, and yeah, I don't really have anyone else I want to bother at this time. So I'll probably just be wandering a bit town, like do a bit of shopping, which I'll do between sessions.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
They
and
purchase whatever.
Yeah, rations, climbing gear, stuff.
Yeah. So yeah, you wander around town for a bit, just doing some shopping, stocking up on supplies for a journey. Um,
Yeah.
and we'll say basically some time passes, and later on you return to the inn, and shortly thereafter, Lindarin sort of arrives and kind of like sees you waiting in the common room, and she says, "Alquil, to what do I owe the pleasure of this unexpected visit?"
Yes, yes, well, I was seeking if I'm being honest, I was seeking would be seeking your advice. Says, I yesterday after we spoke, I did as you suggested, and I went out into the forest and communed, asking Gueron Windstrom for his guidance. As I spoke, or as I prayed, this white furred stag appeared out of the woods, and when I laid my eyes upon it, I was filled with a vision. And I'll basically just describe the vision of the dwarf. I don't want to describe it for a third
Mm-hmm.
time
Yeah.
today. I basically and like of what happened there. It says, um, I wasn't certain what it means after the deer ran off, but afterwards I also were approached by Hangar of the elk tribe, an old friend of mine who, after we spoke, he told me that there had been more that the Ragged Men have seen more giant sightings recently, about a week's past, wandering east in well more frequently than they have seen before. Search parties, he described them as looking like heading east into the Dale. Yes. I thought for I thought that perhaps this was um, Guaron Windstrom's way of telling me that I should go eastwards to Hartwell with you. But then this morning, when I made a good on an old agreement, buying back an item of mine which I had pawned off many years back, I heard from Ogden Flamebeard, tavern owner of the Calvin's Comfort, that one of his ancestors was a renowned giant slayer, a dwarf said to be able to cleave, like cut down trees, with a single strike and cut off giants' legs in a similar fashion. He says, apparently, this dwarf a few hundred years back went up to Calvin's cairn. Hasn't been seen since. Just part of me started to wonder if perhaps that is who I saw in my vision.
And he sort of nods and says, interesting. He says, well, it certainly seems to me as though he has reached out to you. He says, but visions are often somewhat up to interpretation by those who receive them. It's hard to say what his intentions were for you. I think figuring it out is part of the deal, but Ogden does speak true about that ancestor of his. Well, in some regards. You know how dwarves are. They want to talk up the accomplishment of their great ancestors. They hold a great respect for them and want others to do the same, even if it means exaggerating the story somewhat. He says, I heard tales of a similar man when I was young. He says, never met him myself either, though. Mysterious figure he is.
I not. Well, I was thinking perhaps if Gvaron Windstrom's plan is for me to find this man, that I should head up to Calvin's cairn and see if I can perhaps find any signs of this dwarf. Says,
And yeah, she sort of nods and says, perhaps, and says, and even if not, it'll at least serve to keep you polished up on your skills. I'm sure you haven't been growing complacent in your travels further down south.
I hope not, I say. Yes, I should do that. Although, as Ogden did warn me, it's not a easy trip. It's one I shouldn't be doing alone. Though I doubt if you're leaving soon to go eastwards, I'll probably not have time to make the trip and then also join you on your trip east. Says. So I won't be as foolish as to ask you to join me for this trek.
Yeah, she sort of like nods and says, yes, much as I would like to help you in this, I have my duties to the Emerald Enclave. He says, I must see through my own journey rather quickly. I have no time for delays.
I understand, says. I would join you, but my gut is telling me that I should make the trip to Kelvin's cairn. Says that is where I would find the man of from my visions.
And she sort of like nods, kind of like reaching out and kind of like grabbing her hand, and just sort of says, if that is what your instinct tells you, then just follow it. Believe in yourself, and Gueron will lead the way.
I nod. I will. Thank you very much, Lindorin. Say. And Guerin's blessing be with you on your journey.
Sort of nods and smiles. He says, "You've grown to be a fine young man, Alquil." He says, "I know that your mother and father would be proud of you. They could see you now."
Uh, Probably is like a bit silent for a moment, and then smiles and nod. Says, "Yes, I would very much like to think so. Thank you."
Sort of like nods, standing up. Says, "Now I must get rested and prepare. I believe I shall be heading out on the morrow."
Then I shall leave you to it. I say, and I'll get up and says, stay safe." Says, and um, keep your wits about you on your travels. Good luck, and maybe we meet again.
Sort of nods and says, "I'm sure if you ever find your way east in Hartvale, that we shall run into each other again. Until then, stay vigilant on the path."
Yes, I will. And with that, I'll leave.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So, I guess I'm just gonna be preparing for the journey to Kelvin's comfort, but also somebody who's willing to go do the trek with me. That's gonna be interesting. Like, I'm sure if Alquill knows anyone, but like, maybe perhaps there is some way I could like, I don't know, put a poster in like the village board. Hey, I am traveling to Kelvin's care. Who is suicidal enough to come with me?
Oh god.
I'm not sure if there's any place in the Icewind Dales where like, or anyone I know who would be insane enough to go make that trek.
Who knows?
Who knows?
But I assume at this point you're probably going back to the
Kelvin's comfort.
yeah, back
Yes.
to the inn once more and
Yes.
resting for the night. Um, and I think as far as things go, I want to keep these kind of shorter, like an hour or so.
Yes.
So I think that is where we will leave things off for today.
Yeah. That's absolutely fine. No cliffhanger this time.
And then next over the next week, you can have a think to yourself about what you want to do as far as seeking aid and in that
Well,
regard, and we'll go from there.
yeah. I must remember. Must remember to buy shit and buy travel stuff, rations, climbing gear. Pledge now.
Definitely.
Hmm?
Most definitely. Important things.
Yeah.
Don't want to be lost in the mountains with no food.
Yes. All right.
Alrighty then. Thank you for joining me today, and I will see you same time next week, assuming you're available, and we will
Yeah.
see where things go